Last weekend we had this year's big D&D stream event, The Descent. Now the last couple of years I've tried to catch these announcement streams live, but this year I had two separate D&D campaigns to DM that weekend, so it took me a couple of days to get caught back up on everything they had announced. From what I saw, the event was a big success. There were a bunch of different games streamed, with some of the big names in the D&D community, and we got several new product announcements, like a Rick and Morty D&D adventure. Not that I've ever felt a burning need for that, and a new D&D Essentials starter kit with a great looking DM screen and some much longed for maps of the Sword Coast. But what I want to talk about is of course the new adventure for the upcoming year, Baldurs Gate Descent into Avernus. Now first off, who would have known that someone else out there looked at Mad Max Fury Road and thought, how can I adapt this into D&D? I'm going to throw in a link to one of my old videos in the description in case you don't know what I'm talking about. So we got this epic campaign with massive Hellforged war machines, crewed by insane warlords racing across the literal wastelands of hell, set to the backdrop of a blood war. I'm not going to lie, I did not see that coming. I had some suspicions and theories that the next book was going extra planar, even figured the lower planes after they announced the stream name, but Fury Road in Hell? No. Well, let's wind things back a bit, and let's talk about where this new game starts off. During your first few levels, you'll find yourself slumming around in Baldurs Gate, and will eventually make your way over to Candlekeep before taking the plunge into the Hells. I really hope they will have some nice solid new info on Baldurs Gate. This isn't the first time we've had a look at Baldurs Gate in 5th edition. We very briefly visited it in Tyranny of Dragons and Tomb of Annihilation, and we got to look at the current states of the city in the Sword Coast Adventures Guide. But the stream hinted that we would be spending a bit more time in Baldurs Gate this time, and get involved in some of the intrigue. At the very least, I expect that we'll get a quick rundown of the city and its dukes. It's hard to tell just how involved they will be in the overall plot, but some concept art for the Dukes of Baldurs Gate was shown on the stream. Candlekeep was also mentioned. The monastery houses the largest library on the Sword Coast, and has been a place many of my players have wanted to visit. I do hope they provide enough information on Baldurs Gate, Candlekeep, and the surrounding area to not just allow us to run Descent into Avernus, but also so that DMs can use the information as a launching point for their own adventures and campaigns set in the region. The naming of the book itself, Baldurs Gate Descent into Avernus, makes me wonder if it will be going for something similar to the Waterdeep books released last year, with several products released that tie together. I'm not sure what sort of adventures set in Baldurs Gate would challenge a group that's made it all the way through Avernus, but it's worth keeping in mind. At the start of the adventure, rumors about devils and their dealings have started to creep up in Baldurs Gate, and word has reached the city that the city of Elturel has disappeared. And some of the same signs that appeared before that city's disappearance are now emerging in Baldurs Gate. Now, the disappearance of Elturel is tied into the ongoing story of Zariel, the former Archangel and now Archduchess of Avernus. She has a personal grudge with Elturel, and so seems to have either wiped it out, or, more likely, kidnapped the city to Avernus. I'm not sure what I think about that part, since I haven't read the campaign. I'm not sure how critical that part is to the story being told. Right now it seems more like they wiped out one of the major cities of Faerun just to build tension. I rarely enjoy using shock value to drive a story forward, and I generally like sweeping changes to the world to be made to be well thought through and have meaning. I wonder if the destruction of Elturel is permanent, and in that case if we had really reached the end of the stories that we could tell about the city, and what effects this would have on the rest of the world. Elturel was the home to a strong order of paladins, and with their disappearance the world would grow a lot darker. The main part of the campaign seems to take place in the Nine Hells though, specifically in the first circle of Hell, Avernus. The developer specifically mentioned the fact that the players would be low-leveled when they first ascended into Hell, so I'm expecting the Baldurs Gate parts to be more of a prologue. Avernus is an interesting pick to set an adventure in. Personally, I've always seen Avernus as an obstacle that you need to get past before you can get to the more interesting parts of Hell, like the City of Dis. So although I have often planned for my players to visit the plane, the idea to set a whole campaign there has never really struck me before. But the team from Wizards has spent a lot of time thinking about how to bring Avernus to life and make it interesting. In their minds, Avernus was once a paradise meant to lure in mortals and corrupt them, until the River Styx changed its flow and spilled into the lair, bringing with it endless demon hordes. It's an interesting idea, although It sort of implies there was a point when the Abyss wasn't trying to invade the Nine Hells, which feels wrong in a war that is literally eternal. But what it means is that there are all kinds of interesting and ancient ruins to explore, other than the countless fortresses and war machines, that is. And we all know that one of the cornerstones to any good D&D setting is the presence of previous civilizations that now lie in ruins, with interesting history and treasure to discover. I expect we will also see some of the known landmarks in Avernus, such as the River Styx, but others that will be outside of the scope of the adventure, such as the Home of Tiamat. I'm also curious to see how the developers handle things such as the endless rain of fireballs that streak down from the sky in Avernus. Although the landscape certainly is interesting in Avernus, I think that the thing that will be most interesting are the characters. The main antagonist, seems to be Zariel, the fallen angel who rules Avernus and leads Hell's legions in the Blood War. They even hinted at the possibility of redeeming her and leading her back into the light. Although, if she really murdered all of Elturel, I'm not sure many of my characters would be so forgiving. There's also her former mount and companion, the Holyphant Lulu. It always brings a smile to my lips whenever they dig deep into old lore and unearth some weird creation of the earlier editions, although they often tone them down a little too far in my opinion, so let's hope Lulu gets to keep some of her weird. The stream also saw the reveal of some truly terrifying and fascinating warlords. These warlords are war profiteers that travel the wastes of Avernus, supplying materials, manpower, and other unique gifts to the Blood War in exchange for huge profits. Although some seem to be more like bandits, raiding and looting where they can. I really hope these colorful characters get to play a huge role in the adventure. There was a night hag who uses exploding redcaps, a Rakshasa with a wandering market, a wereboar mercenary, a sadistic Eladrin, rebellious devils, and more. I imagine that these will turn out to be antagonists for players. Except the Rakshasa. Players will always have an undeniable need to shop, so I think they might make an effort to stay on his good side. And the way that these warlords get around is what I think will interest the players the most. The warlords and the others in Avernus use infernal war machines to travel and aid them in battles. Essentially, these are hellish fantasy versions of cars, trucks, and motorcycles. Now, I'm a little split on these myself. The visuals and the ideas behind them are cool, but I wouldn't want these to become mainstay in every D&D setting. I like my prime material plane to stay somewhat low, fantasy, and realish, but since this campaign takes place in Hell, well, I'm willing to embrace a whole lot of crazy down there. There's also the matter of their power source. You see, infernal war machines are powered by souls, which makes some sense. After all, souls are the only currency of worth in the Hells, and there's a lot of power in them. But it's supposed to be something of a moral dilemma whether or not you should be annihilating souls to be able to keep your sweet ride. But the way I see this playing out with most of my players is that they will either just shrug and chuck the souls into the engine, or they will just flat out refuse and walk away. I would really like it if my players felt conflicted about the idea, but I doubt that will happen. I'm looking forward to the expanded vehicle rules though. I think I can find a few uses for them outside of the Nine Hells and the war machines. And tied into the whole adventure, we're also getting a maps and miscellany and dice pack. Now these look completely awesome, and I would gladly dish out some extra cash for the map of Avernus I saw, and the themed dice that go with the campaign, all presented in a stunning box that doubles as a dice tray. At first when they announced it, I admit I was a little ticked off, since instead of releasing the map pack and dice separately, they chose to combine them. I had assumed that the people who just wanted to get dice would have to pay extra, but looking at the price, it's not so bad. Sure, it's a few bucks more expensive than the Tomb of Annihilation set, but the Avernus dice actually cost just as much as any of the other dice sets that were released after Tomb. And I've got to say, this set feels a lot more worth it cost-wise than the Ravnica or Dragon Heist dice ever did it for me. I've had a few days to digest it all, and I'm still not completely sure about what I think, but I'm definitely looking forward to reading the book. But I know too little about the story to know if I'm going to enjoy running the campaign myself. Overall, I'm happy with what I've seen. The Wizard team keeps providing us with high-quality products, and I feel like that we're finally leaving the material planes behind and heading back into the planes. An adventure set in Hell is just the kind of thing I know that a lot of people have been waiting for. It feels like this, to some degree, is the 5th edition's attempt to flirt with Planescape. And as such, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Planescape PDF setting drop in some 8 months or so, much like the Eberron got released as a PDF on the DM's Guild. It wouldn't surprise me either if they actually follow up and made an adventure called Baldurs Gate and the City of Doors, or something along those lines. I know that I would very much appreciate them releasing the occasional high-leveled content, and I think it's just about the time for us to return to Sigil. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? Are you excited about the idea of riding across the barren wastes of Avernus atop your very own Infernal War Machine? Let me know what you think of the next big campaign and whether or not it's going to lead up to Planescape. And as always, if you enjoyed my video, why not give it a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. And if you want to support my channel, then why not share this video with friends or on social media? It really helps out a lot. You can also check out my DM's Guild page or follow me on Tumblr or Twitter. Until next time, Dungeon Delvers.